Hello, my name is Kevin R. Livingston, and welcome to Workaday Hollywood.
I'm David Adams Hood, and today we're talking to Stu Brumbaugh. He's a key grip, been working for about little over 20 years.
Yeah, about 25 years, a little over 25 years in the industry.
All right. Well, I think we should start out with what is a key grip and what does he do? And I think Kevin wants to know about a best boy.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure everybody's been to the theater and saw that credit roll up and been very confused about what a key grip or a best boy is. And key grip, we basically handle all of the heavy lifting on set, as far as all the rigging, anything that gets put up in the air or structures and things like that. We deal with a lot of the heavy equipment as far as, big machinery, forklifts, cranes, man lifts, things like that. We handle any camera movements. Everybody's seen cranes on set or, cars where cameras rigged onto cars and behind the scenes things. So anytime the camera is moved or rigged, we handle all of that. We also handle all of basically the shaping of light on set. So there's a saying in the industry that is the electricians set the light and the grips make it right. So we handle that inside the studio or indoors. And then when we're daylight exterior, we handle all the overheads, the diffusions. And fortunately, here in Montana, I've got a nice overcast sky, so the diffusion is perfect. But if it's a bright, sunny day, we'll basically bring in big overheads to soften the light so it's not so intense.
Interesting.
Yeah, we're also...
Now, on location, do the key grips go with the location manager to set everything up?
The key grips usually are underneath the camera department, so the DP is essentially our boss.
Okay.
We also handle safety on set, so we're pretty much there from day one all the way to the last day of shooting, just because we're in charge of safety as well.
Did you get to best?
Yeah, so the best boy is essentially it would be my right hand guy or gal, because there are a lot of women in our industry as well. But the terminology comes from, hey, we'd like you to come to work on this thing and bring your best guy, and that turned into best boy. So best boy handles all of the day-to-day operations, the time cards, which is really important because when guys don't get paid, it tends to get a little mutiny on set. They also handle all the ordering of things. So if I say, hey, we need a crane on this day, they handle all of those logistics. They handle all the expendables. So hey, we've got this house that we're shooting in next week, and I need to ND neutral density every window in this house. So to go take the measurements and please make sure I have, ND 369. So they'll handle all the logistics. So they're kind of, that's what called the best boy, because they handle all of that work.
Yeah, I may or may not have flown a packet of checks across the country to our friend Colin Flume to prevent such a mutiny on set one time.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah, Colin's a great guy. Yeah, I really enjoy working with him. He's just always been a pleasure, and we've certainly had our go around on a few things, and it's for those reasons, and unfortunately, you get on some of these lower budget films, and it's just the money coming in on the investor side, it tends to slow the progress down, and unfortunately, Colin turns into the whipping boy on set for every department. So. Kudos to him for staying in it as long as he has.
Yeah.
So now, I know you've been in the business a long time, but how do you come by jobs?
Starting out, it was always, back then, you just call people randomly and try and work your way in. And I didn't start as a key grip. I've spent many, many years working myself into that job. I started actually in the electric department. I started as an electrician, running cable and power to set. My background is I grew up, my dad's an electrician, so I spent many years understanding electricity and how it works. And so it was a nice fit for me to start electrician. And then I worked up as a best boy electric. So that's the best boy for the gaffer. And then I started gaffing. So I understood a lot of the lighting, and then I went over into the grip department. It just fit me a little better, just because I've always had like a very mechanical mind, and the problem solving thing on the grip side just kind of fit me. As far as finding work, it's just reputation at this point. So my phone rings with a DP that I've worked with, or a producer, or whatever, and they call me and say, hey, we have this project and we'd love to bring you on. And
Right.
we negotiate the rates and the, and all of those things that, the business side of the business, which is, the not so glamorous side of things, but certainly a necessity. I mean, I love what I do, but it's how I pay my bills and feed my family. And
Right.
so, but yeah, it took a long time to get there. It takes a long time to have a reputation in this industry where people trust you with, essentially millions and millions and millions of dollars and, time and money and your project and equipment. And so, I try and learn as much as I can. Even, I still learn things every day, and I enjoy that aspect of this industry as it's constantly evolving and changing, and being able to learn new things and new experiences every day and meet new people, which is great. So it fits really well for me.
I think I remember you said it's not who you know, it's who knows you.
Yeah, and I truly believe that, because that getting into this business, that's what I always heard over and over and over and over again. It's like, it's like all about who you know. And as I've done this as many years as I have, I've realized that shift is about who knows you. And because your phone's just not going to ring. You may know 1,000 people, but if they don't know who you are, you're getting a dial tone on the other end of the line.
Right.
Right. Now, in some camps, right, people see movies and, they roll the credits and all that.
Right.
How many people, like a key grip, a gaffer, electrician, always work on the same job? Are there little camps like that where, people go from production to production to production?
Certainly. I mean, if you look at Lee Eastwood, if you go back in and look at a lot of his film credits and you look at the people below him, you'll see a lot of the same people. And the great thing is that there's a lot of us, for instance, I just did a car commercial 4 days ago in Glacier National Park, random call. I got a call from a producer that I knew from years and years and years ago saying, oh my God, you're in Montana. This is awesome. And I've done a lot of movies and stuff up here, but she called me and, I brought out the equipment out to Browning, and we had all the stuff, and I knew easily 50% of the crew. And it was people from LA, it was people from Montana, it was people from New York, it was people from New Mexico. And it was just interesting because some of them I hadn't seen in 20 years. Even the gaffer, I was like, oh my, it's Mike Kelly, who's a very well-known gaffer in our industry. I was like, oh my God, Mike, I haven't seen you forever. And, we got to catch up, and which was really nice. But he follows around he has his group that he works with and my group that I work with. And sometimes you just get to see these people that you haven't seen in a lot of years. But to answer your question, yes, I do want to say this, is there's a shift happening in our industry. It's a very unfortunate thing. There seems to be a lot back in the day, and I say this like I'm 100 years old, which I'm not, but even when I first started in this industry, there was a loyalty, and it was very hard to get through those walls. It was very hard to break in because it was like everybody was just so tight. And what I've noticed is that there's just the loyalty just isn't what it used to be. I mean, it's I go and do these projects for some of these younger DPs, and I help them out, and they ask for my my experience, which I'm gladly will be there to help them out. And and then some of them are kind of favor jobs like that. Like I wouldn't work for those rates normally, or bring my trucks out for those rates. But I'm like, well, I'm kind of helping this guy out, and then they get what they want, and they just kind of move on and don't really look back. And it's very unfortunate, I think, in our industry. So
you bring your own.
It's very self-serving these days. Sorry.
No, you bring your own trucks.
Yeah. So most people that are at the level, when you have that kind of experience and things like that, when you get to that level, you basically want your toolbox. It'd be essentially like asking a carpenter to come to your house to build a whole bunch of beautiful cabinets and then give him your great grandfather's toolbox and be like, well, you got to use this. That's the analogy I like to use. You want that guy to bring his tools. He knows what he's got. He knows what works for what. And my trucks are very specifically built to the way that I operate. All of the nuts and bolts and the rigging and things like that. I prefer it that way. Unfortunately, what's happening too is another shift in our industry is that a lot of these studios, Fox and And I mean, they've always had their own grip and lighting departments, but now on a lot of these lots, you don't even get to bring your gear anymore. It's their way or the highway, and it's because now they're taking, they're trying to just grab every penny they can, and it's really hurting a lot of the the owner operators, guys like me who run 5-6 trucks and trying to just keep the machinery going. And but that goes back to, it's all about who knows you. So a lot of times I'm able to kind of wiggle my way into the studios, but there's a lot of backdoor handshakes and wheeling and dealing that goes on.
All right, now I have a two-pronged question based on your trucks. What type of trucks do you have? And then when you take a job, do they give you time to drive to the job? Like, you're in Montana now, and they're shooting in Atlanta, so you're going to drive down there?
Right. So,
okay.
Yeah. So, well, it's the two-pronged question is, yes, I have trucks. The trucks are semis, most of them. I mean, I do have smaller trucks for like the little music videos or little commercials here and there, which, you kind of have to have the right toolbox for the job. So I have trucks here in Montana and I have trucks back in LA. So it just depends on what the job is and how the job is put together. For instance, this car commercial that I had, so my trucks are down in Bozeman, which is the southern part of the state, which is about 350 miles south of here. So
Wow.
I live up on in the side of West Glacier National Park. My driver just couldn't do it. He had some other things come up. So I had to jump in my pickup, drive the 350 miles down to Bozeman the day before the job, get in my commercial vehicle, and drive it all the way back up to. So, I mean, it was an all day. It was like essentially me driving from Los Angeles to almost Salt Lake City in a day. But normally on the bigger jobs, the union jobs and the jobs that are bigger, what they'll do is they'll send a driver, a teamster, that'll come pick up the equipment and take it, to and from. And then it's just kind of, it's out of my hands at that point. I show up, my truck's there, and, they have professional drivers that come out and, as a key and a person who's an owner operator, one of the people that we want to, the people that we want to make friends with is the transpo captain, so that our truck isn't parked a mile away from set, where we're all the way at the back end and we've got the heaviest amount of equipment to move. So,
yeah. Just curious, as a percentage, how much studio work do you do versus location work at this point?
Most of it's location work. I've done a lot of TV shows and pilots and things like that, and I love doing them. They're great. You get to go just hang out on the same set every day and be with the same people and eat the same food, and what your paycheck's going to be every week. But the commercials and kind of the high energy features on location, that just suits better to me. I had an office job once for a few years down in Santa Monica. I was working at an ad agency. This is years ago when I thought I wanted to be a writer. I kind of wiggled my way into an ad agency, and I faked it till I made it. I was a copywriter and kind of working copyright in the AV department, kind of mixing it up a little bit. And I was under the fluorescent lights for 3 years, and it almost killed me. And I just couldn't do it anymore. And I kind of feel the same way about the studio work. I mean, it's great for, it just works well for some people. They like to have that consistency of work and not have the same feast or famine that, the guys like me tend to have, but it just fits better with me.
So let's talk about Rust. We saw you on CNN. I when I looked you up, it was like, your CNN interviews, just without the dirt. Just big picture. Let's talk about that.
Sure. Yeah. So Rust is it's one of those things that I guess happens in your career that is just, it's such a tragedy on every aspect of it. I'm, even as much fault as everybody wanted to give to the armor and stuff. My heart does go out to her, because she's a young woman and getting her career started, and, wanting to do a good job and take on all these tasks and stuff. And I know there was some, I know the media really wanted to turn this into this whole, this person's at fault and we need a villain in all of this. And there was no villain.
Right.
You had a person who just didn't have a lot of experience and like I said earlier, when you get into this industry, you want to please. I mean, you want to work hard. You want to show, hey, I can handle this. And that's what gives you that reputation. So it's a double-edged sword. You're kind of this fake it till you make it thing can also work against you. It can be detrimental, as it can cost production all sorts of things. And unfortunately on this one, it cost somebody their life. And I'm certainly not placing blame anywhere. But with her, it just, my heart goes out to everybody. It goes out to the family. It goes out to her. It goes out to, it goes out to the producers and everybody who was involved. And that particular film, I was offered a position in Rust before Rust happened. I was actually in Montana working on another Western, and some of those producers had said, "Hey, Stu, do you want to go down to New Mexico and do this other film that we have right after this?" And of course, at the time, I'd been gone for almost 2 months from my family, and I was like, my wife will divorce me if I take another movie right now. So I declined the movie, and I went back to LA. And then, of course, the media and all the things happened, and I got a phone call that had said, "Hey, the person that's kind of involved in this was the same armor from our film in Montana." And it was just, it was a little gut wrenching because, we'd had some issues in Montana that just, weren't good. And obviously I tried to address those issues. And, and the Rust film came full circle because when I was in LA, I have another friend of mine who's a close friend. He's a DP. He called me and said, "Hey, I have this film coming to LA. Would you be interested? It's a Western." I said, "Yeah, of course I'll come do it." And he told me that it was Rust. And, I was like, wow, they're trying to start this thing up again. That's insane, especially in Los Angeles. And of course, once the word got out, the unions were up in arms, all the grip and electric. And to me, it's very interesting how many people had opinions about everything who just had no understanding of anything. Like I was kind of dumbfounded in the industry about how many, armchair warriors decide to come forward and, put in their 2 cents when they had no idea what they were talking about. Of course, the film didn't happen in Los Angeles, just because of I just think because of everything going on. Then I get a phone call in Montana about a year later from some producers up here saying, "Hey, we're doing this film in Montana. We're at the film ranch down by Livingston. And we heard you're the guy that does the Westerns, and we'd like to see about getting you on this." And I had a great conversation, and then they told me, "Well, it's Rust." And I said, "Well, you guys understand, I was the one that was on the national television kind of, pardon my French, shitting on you guys a little bit about like just, pocketing the money and not hiring experienced people to do these key positions." They said, "Well, we've just cleaned house and got a bunch of new producers, and we're redoing the film." And, there was some back and forth. I talked to the DP, had a great conversation with Bianca Klein. Bianca Klein is just an amazing DP and an amazing human being. And, she was kind of taking the reins for Helena. We had a great conversation, and I eventually agreed to do the movie here in Montana because a lot of the people working on that film were my Montana film family here. And I said, well, if all these people are going to be there, I want to make sure I'm there and make sure it's, done properly and safely and things. And, they had a couple of safety people from, some of the big studios in LA. They brought them out, and they were there every single day. And I will tell you that it was interesting to finish that film out and how it came full circle for me. And it was one of the best crews that I've ever worked with in my life. I mean, everybody was on point. Everybody was professional. Everybody was kind. And I think there was this sense of like, nobody wanted to muck up the works. They wanted it to be flawless. And in my personal opinion, I mean, we reshot a lot of the film because a lot of the actors declined to return. I think just because of the bad media on it. Yeah. They didn't want to be connected to it. But I truly believe it's going to be a great film, and I would, I think it'll be really good. And I'm proud to be part of it, even though under the circumstances, it probably wasn't under the best circumstances. But I was happy to finish it for Helena and for Helena's family because my understanding is her husband is very involved in, recouping a lot of those, not recouping, but as an executive producer, he's going to benefit, and Helena's son is going to benefit from that movie. And I'm happy to be part of making that happen.
Right.
That's great. I did not know that. Wow.
Now, having said that, right, studio movies, a lot of the times, and I'm not talking about the mega movie,
right?
Like a Marvel movie. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, little studio movies that the studio is behind don't have to cut corners like a picture like Rust, right? Where instead of having 5 caterers, you got 2.
Yeah.
No, you understand what I'm saying, right? Instead of having 8 security guys, you got 1.
Right.
That's where they save money, right? To make the film.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm only saying that because, a studio film would probably have a more seasoned armorer than who they hired.
100%.
Because now it's about money, right?
Of course. And look, everybody, as far as all the people that I've met in this industry, everybody gets into this to be creatively involved. We're all creative individuals. We all want to tell a story. We want to be part of the industry. I mean, there are the occasional people who are like, I want to make money, but it's still, it's still the film business. And it is a business. And I think that it takes a long time for you to realize in this industry that it is a business. I mean, it's for profit. There is a creative aspect to it. I'm not taking that away from it, but it is a business. And it's like anything else. You have a budget and you can't go outside that budget. Here's the money. And once the money's gone, the money's gone. We can't rob Peter to pay Paul because there is no Peter.
Right.
This is what we have to work with. If you're a minimum wage guy, you're not going to go try and rent a, $80 million mansion. It's just not going to work out. And it's no different from films. And I understand the producers from that particular situation. I get it. I've produced my own films. I've directed my own films, and they're shoestring budget. I had a budget to work with. I get it from their point of view. But to me, there are very specific roles in this industry that I think there should be some vetting happening in these roles. They're just important.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I mean, if your set medic is not trained in, CPR, then what the heck is the point of having the medic there? And I think it's no different from an armor, a stunt coordinator, a key grip. You don't want to be somebody who's, just got off the bus from Ohio working at a Marvel movie and hanging stuff over everybody's head in a 30,000 square foot warehouse or stage. To me, that's you're just asking for problems. Yeah, production may have saved a few bucks, but when catastrophe happens, it's going to cost you a lot more on the back end.
Yeah,
so
that's for sure. Deadliest Catch.
Yes. So yeah, I did a season of Deadliest Catch. Went up to the Bering Strait, and we rigged all the boats. And David Reichert's the DP he's been the DP for Deadliest Catch for years, and David's a buddy of mine, and we worked on some other projects together. And he called and said, "Hey, do you want to come up to work on Deadliest Catch?" And of course, I agreed just for the experience. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of the captains are just no filter, so I got along immediately with them because they just there's no there's no filter whatsoever. So it's great to be around those individuals and spend a little time. I mean, I wasn't there for the full run of the show. Our job was to come and basically redo all these boats because they had a lot of things that they hadn't really liked the previous seasons, just a lot of the lighting and the rigging and things, and they wanted to try some new stuff. And I was very happy to be part of that. And, David's an underwater guy. I'm an underwater guy. I do a lot of underwater rigging and stuff. And my team's all underwater guys and stuff. So yeah, we kind of do a little bit of everything. I tell my guys that anything that you can learn, anything that you can kind of make yourself more attractive in this industry, the better off you'll be because you can handle any situation. You're prepared for everything. So
did you actually go out there on the boats with them, or did you set up ahead of time?
Yeah, we went out. We set everything up. We were there for I want to say it was a couple of weeks, and we rigged every single vessel, and then we did some test runs out. We just went out and did some test runs on some of the boats and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, we had a great time. It was Alaska is beautiful, and I would certainly go back again if I was invited. And but yeah, it's great.
How for a person like you to do that?
What's that?
I mean, it's a lot of fun. But it was also challenging because you're out there with the boat pitching and shifting and all of this, right?
Yeah.
Trying to hook something up.
Yeah.
Now, again, you did something new from the season before. but looking at you, it's fun for you to do that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, and that's probably one of the best things about this job is I get to go do things and see things that most people just never get to do in normal life. I mean, we did the commercial for the Virgin Galactic spaceship, and we were the first people outside of those people building it that were allowed in there. And then we're in there rigging pipes and cameras, and I mean, it just was like, and one of the most stressful moments in my career is I had this 60 by 40. They pulled the Galactic 1 spaceship out of the hangar. We basically brought in our truss because we wanted an overhead with a teaser on the side of it. Basically, that was on chain motors, but the way that their hangar was, I didn't have the standard spacing for my chain motor, so we were a little overextended on the load for what my motors and stuff were really rated for. So we were just a tinge over, which I wasn't comfortable with, but we were there. We had to get it done. So we brought up the rig, on the motors, and brought it up to the ceiling and just sat there and waited. And I told those guys, because we went around that whole rig 6 or 7 times. We just did, each guy followed behind the next. We checked every bolt, checked everything, because they told us, they said, if you drop one thing on this thing, we have to tear it apart and redo it.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
obviously it's going into space.
Pressure.
It's going into space. So we brought the rig up, and they brought the spaceship back underneath it, and we did our job. And I just was just sweating the whole time. I'm like, just get that damn thing out of there. Or let me bring this rig down, because I don't want that thing underneath this rig anymore. So, I got to film with the Mars rovers before they went into space. I've been on 14 fighter jets. I've been on aircraft carriers. I mean, in areas. I mean, I do all the work for the Sphere in Vegas. So I did Postcard from Earth, the largest budget movie ever to date. So I've been with the guys at Sphere since they were doing test footage. Andrew Shulkin is a really good friend of mine. I've known him for 25 years. He's the guy that kind of leads that whole program over there with Sphere at MSG. And, and it feels good to have a lot of these people trust you to just know you're going to come in, you're going to deliver, you're going to make things right. So, it's good to have that background.
Stu, you're living quite the life, my friend.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. My favorite thing in the world is to come home and be with my family. You know what I mean? Like, you get to do all these amazing things, but and this industry is really tough on families. I mean, my wife is, man, I hit the lottery with her. She just, to have somebody that stands behind you in this industry and to be taking care of 3 kids while you're out doing all these fun, crazy things and going on all these adventures and seeing the world. And she's there taking care of 3 kids and packing lunch boxes and getting kids to school. I can say that having experience in life and experience in the industry and doing all that, you also have to balance that with a good life outside of that, because I refuse to let this industry or my career define me as a human being, because life is so much more important than all this make-believe crap that we do.
Right.
Look at it as a job. I love what I do, and I wouldn't change it for the world, but it doesn't have to define me as a human being. There's a lot more interesting things to me than just, being a key grip. So,
yeah,
but
I hear you.
But I like talking about it. I like sharing my experiences, and one of my favorite things on set is to train new guys and to see kind of like this excitement in their face and the excitement to be on set, because that's how I was and I get excited still to see that kind of fresh-faced kid show up on set and really want to learn and be part of it and part of the whole experience. I really enjoy that.
So now, when you get a fresh-faced kid, how would one get into being the key grip today?
I think it's just a matter of experience, and that's another thing that's shifting in our industry too, is that, you get some of these trust fund kids. And don't get me wrong, I wish I was a trust fund kid. That'd be amazing. But you get some of these trust fund kids that come into the industry, and they've worked a couple of jobs. Somehow they've kind of found their way on set, and they go to whomever, and, they go buy a truck and get some equipment, and then they call themselves a key grip. This is where the recipe for disaster happens, because they've never learned the proper way of doing things. So now they bring on a lot of their guys who are younger guys than them, and they're training them but they're training them wrong. They're not learning the proper way of doing things and the safest way of doing things. And most importantly, like the Rust situation, not having the experience to use their voice and say, what you're asking me to do in the amount of time they're asking me to do it with the amount of people that I'm doing it is not going to work. And I refuse to do it. Instead, they're, yeah, we'll make it happen. And that's when bad things happen. So,
Yeah.
As far as somebody wanting to be a key grip, I think it's just a matter of experience, and then deciding if that's something you want to do. Because I have guys that want nothing to do with being a key grip, and they're completely capable and experienced, but the stress that comes along with it, because everybody sees the glamour thing, the glamour thing on set working. What they don't see is the weeks of back and forth and arguing with production and putting the blueprints together and working out the loads of things and trying to figure out the correct rig of doing stuff. And all that's unpaid most of the time. And so, and all the responsibility is on you. So something goes wrong, you don't make your day, something happens, all the fingers are pointing at you. So a lot of people just don't want that stress. But for me, I think being a key grip is more than just my experience, but it's also hiring really good people. I get rid of the bad ones immediately. And anybody that knows me in this industry will say, yep, he doesn't bring guys with shitty attitudes or, just throwing gear around or getting in fights with production. Those people, they're toxic, and I just can't have them on my crew. I hire the best guys with experience and with good attitudes. Somebody with a good attitude, you can teach how to set a C-stand. Somebody with a bad attitude, it doesn't matter what you teach them. So
yeah. What are you working on next?
I've got some commercials, and there's a couple of potential features coming up here in Montana. So we'll see what happens. Sometimes you throw your name in the hat and just see what happens with things. And there's always projects kind of milling around and doing that. So, I just noticed here that I'm about ready to die on my laptop here. I might have to change positions if that's okay with you guys. I just got to realize I got to plug this thing in.
Okay.
Is that okay for 3 seconds?
Yeah.
I do apologize, gentlemen.
Oh, no worries. Thanks for doing this. All right. David, I'm going to lose you because Kevin's going to change the battery.
All right.
It's going really well. So I only have one more question.
All right.
And that's the movie question.
Okay.
I didn't hear you. What? Well, he said something, but you were talking.
No, I didn't say I was about to... What?
Kevin said we're 35 minutes in.
I think we can we can wrap it up. Unless Kevin has a question he wants us to ask him.
We've exhausted.
Kevin's been asking all my questions.
No, I haven't. Don't believe that. I asked one of his.
Every question that Kevin has asked has been a question I've told him.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am. I am. Look, I'm right here. And how does the sound look? Now, the other thing.
Oh, wrong charger. I do apologize, guys.
Don't worry about it. So I'll ask the movie question, right? And then you can do the quote. And then we banter afterward.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, it's forever. Right? It's like a forever stamp. I didn't know there was a Livingston, Montana. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's...
So now you're looking at the lighting, but I got this thing in my face. Can't see. The problem today is my shoulder. Right? Well, no, it's like I have a torn rotator. And for the last week, all of this has been swollen. What? I don't know. It hurts. It's been hurting all day. Yeah. Well, see, mine is more around the neck. And I can't sleep with it. Okay. No, I just got it right here. Haven't you seen me squirm and all that? It hurts. Well, I got pain, man. I got to really have pain. I've been putting like Bengay shit on it, and it just doesn't work. So, big boy, what you doing the rest of the day?
It gets late when we finish this up. I'm kind of done for the day. I don't even know what time it is here.
You don't have a watch?
Oh yeah, 4 o'clock.
All right,
by the time it's 5 o'clock, then I'm pretty much done for my day. My days go about 7 to 7. What's that?
Two?
Oh, I said I apologize. You'd think I'd be a little more prepared.
No.
It's all right.
Trust me, you're more prepared than we are. If
I
you
think
can
that
tilt your
is how
screen
it worked
down
out.
just a hair, the boom, perfect. I'm out.
Go.
All right. It's
For
funny.
me,
I can see
Stu,
you, Stu. I can see you better now.
Oh, good.
But the background isn't quite as pretty.
I gotcha.
No, you're fine. Don't
no,
change
no,
anything. I was just
don't
saying,
move anything.
you know, the outdoors and the trees, and it was beautiful. That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I went outside. I was a little concerned about my my young ones coming home and causing us some noise disturbances. So, but
Yeah, you'd be all right.
do
Hey,
a
Stu,
Yeah.
if you can move your camera and your head to block out that rear light,
how's that?
perfect. Yeah, you got a little backlight situation. Perfect.
There you go.
All right, I'm out. You'll not hear from me anymore.
Okay.
Okay.
What was I gonna say? My one question that I asked, before we go, in 20 years, do you think people will be sitting in a dark room looking at an 80-foot screen,
Mhm.
300 people, or will they be at home looking at an 80-inch television and a streaming surface
Yeah.
20 years from now?
There's something. There's something, man. There's something romantic about making movies for the big screen. There's something to be said about. It's kind of like film. The actual film rolling through a camera. There's something romantic about that. There's something that gives it more of a discipline. I think on set, what I've noticed since the digital boom is the discipline seems to be gone in a lot of instances.
Oh, okay.
Because film, you turn that camera on, you hear that running through the film cans. It costs money. Every linear foot of film was costing production money. So everything had to be perfect. The lighting, the performances, everybody showed up to set prepared, including the actors. What I've noticed nowadays, it's like, I'm going to get 20, 30 takes, and they'll just chop it up and cut and get the pieces out of it that they want. To answer your question, I hope that doesn't happen. But as everything that's going on, things seem to be of the opinion that, if you're being nostalgic about business, that means you're going out of business. So I get the transition, I get the changes. What that landscape looks like, man, I wish I knew, because I would start investing in something. But it seems like every time I think something's going one direction, it veers off the other. So,
Right.
yeah, I hope that movies don't go away, but there sure are a lot of theaters shutting down.
Yeah. I think what we've found ourselves sort of inadvertently documenting with this podcast is the realignment in Hollywood. You're not the only one that's pointing that out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how, with AI and everything, I don't know how that landscape's going to, that technology is going to change our world either. I hope that there's still films being made by human beings and have that. I mean, that's why we go to watch movies, is because it has that human element. We understand all these emotional things that people go through. Granted, we don't, we're not in 25 light years away in space fighting Darth Vader, but we certainly can relate to the characters and their plight and the trials and tribulations that everybody goes through in life, and how we all have the same struggles. And that's kind of what connects us as, in a lot of instances, this industry. So
yeah,
I hope that it doesn't go away. I mean, I certainly don't want my experiences to go away. I don't want my career to just disappear, where people aren't saying, well, what's a key grip? What's a best? Yeah, I wouldn't trade it. I mean, I've had a lot of just great experience. I mean, like I said before, I've just got to go see and do a lot of things in this industry that most people don't. I mean, I was on John Wick and giving all the LA stuff portion of John Wick, and Keanu rode his, he owns Arch Motorcycles, so that's his company. He rode up on his bike one day, and I was like, oh man, that's cool, because I'm kind of a motorhead myself, and we were talking about his bike, and he had mentioned that he built it, and he let me ride it, because I was just, man, I'd like to ride that bike, and we had a break, and he's like, Stu, you ready to ride my bike? And I was like, what? And he goes, ride my bike, I want you to see how it rides. And so he shut down all of Hope Street, because we were filming down there. We were doing a thing on Hope Street, and he said, get on it and go. And of course, that pissed a lot of the producers off because it completely shut production down. Yeah, he held traffic, and I mean, I rode his bike, and he sent me again. Goes, go again. Try and keep her under 100. And
Oh, wow. You were going that fast?
oh, we were. I mean, he was just giving me crap. I mean, I was, and he came back and said, well, what'd you think, man? What'd you think of this bike? It's a prototype. And, it's $100,000 motorcycle. And I said, man, this thing rides nice. But all I could really think about in my head was, don't fuck this up. Don't fuck this up. And, we got along really well after that. And just a great guy. But like those experiences, I just don't, I don't want to go away. So,
yeah. So my kind of final question that I like to go to, and we almost just did it, although, and it was a great story, is a silly celebrity story, although that kind of was one. But I like to hear just
oh man,
give me a goofy celebrity story.
Let's see here, a goofy celeb story. Well, we'll go back to Rust. So
that's a lot for a minute.
It is a lot. So everybody who knows me, who's ever been around me, knows that I'm a pretty strong supporter of the Second Amendment. And, I grew up in Montana. I've been an avid outdoorsman my entire life, my whole family. That's just who my kids only eat wild game. They don't eat any of this processed crap. I mean, like we go and harvest our own food because of those reasons. But when we did Rust, I didn't agree with the things that were happening to Alec, which is crazy for a guy who is a strong supporter of Second Amendment. And here's a guy who is strongly against the Second Amendment. And we couldn't be further apart on those thoughts. He's entitled to his opinion. And I'm certainly entitled to mine as Americans, but I really wanted to dislike the guy. I really, really did. And Alec was having troubles getting off and on the horse, and I've been around horses my whole life, and I know that the wranglers were busy with a lot of things, and so I was helping a lot with Alec, and I really liked him. Like, we got to be kind of, I don't want to say buddies, but we talked a lot. And what he did for us was he bought out the bar one night. He goes, hey, Stu, I just want you to know that I put a tab at the bar. You guys just go and enjoy yourselves. Have a good night. And I came back the next day, and I was helping Alec up on the horse, and I kind of put my hand on his leg, and I said, hey, Alec, man, thanks for buying drinks for all the guys last night at the bar. He's like, yeah, Stu, no problem, man. We'll have to do that again. I said, I didn't even know Montana had 60-year-old scotch up there. And he had this pregnant pause about him. He looks and he goes, well, I hope you had some. And I go, I just got the whole bottle. I figured it was your tab. Why the hell not? And his face kind of, and then he realized I was just messing with him, and he started laughing. But I mean, there's a lot of great experiences too. I was working with Betty White on Hot in Cleveland, which is another funny.
Oh, nice.
And Betty, I love Betty. Betty just was, I mean, she was like the grandmother that everybody wants. And so I got to work with her a lot, and, she'd call me into her green room, and I'd sit there and hang out and talk. And we'd filmed with Betty for about an hour on stage. I believe we were doing a promo for the show, and I happened to walk by the DIT table. I was on set, and I happened to walk by the DIT table, and there's, as anybody's been on set, there's cables and crap going everywhere. So you really got to pay attention. Of course, I wasn't. And I tripped. I kind of kicked a stinger and an extension cord. We call them stingers. I kicked a stinger out, and I was like, oh, and I was like, shit. And I plugged it back in, and all I see is the DIT guy come up over his computer, look at me. He's like he had that face on him. I go, did I just knock the power out of your computer? He goes, and I go, well, tell me you've got a backup power supply on that. And he goes, I don't. And I go, what? And he goes, let me see if I can get it. So he starts it, and he comes over and he goes, I can't find the footage. I go, we just shot with Betty for half the day. Like, and she's at the time, I think she was 80 something. I go, dude, like this, I go, who's going to tell him? Is it my fault or is it your fault? And, so he actually rebuilt the hard drives. I was able to get all the footage back, but I was sweating bullets. I was sweating bullets so much. So,
wow.
You're going to have to tell me what DIT means.
Yeah. It's the digital intermediate technician. So they handle all the footage. They bring in all the footage from the camera. They transcode it into usable footage that they can edit. They'll do like a slight color correction on it, things like that, so that the editor can, use those files to edit. But it's a pretty important job. I mean, every job on set's important. I think that, you know, a lot of people in our industry think their job is the most important, but every single department is critical too. You know, we all got to work together and, you know, help each other out.
All right. This has been lovely.
It's great. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. No, I
thanks
just,
for doing this. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Can't say thank you enough.
Yeah. And once again, I do apologize for not being prepared to have my machine plugged in. You'd think
you're fine. Come on, you're fine. The DIT guy, don't worry about it. You're fine.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, thanks for having me, gentlemen.
Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kevin R. Livingston.
I'm David Adams Hood.
I'm Stu Brumbaugh. Thank you.
And this has been Workaday Hollywood.
All right, so stay with us, Stu.
Thanks again, Stu. You were great.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, guys. This is fun. Wish I could do more of these.
I just, you know, I love hearing the stories. And this really is why we're doing this. It's, you know, just all these different great stories. We got, you know, we did